Hello, hello, and welcome once again to Cryptic Corner, where we take a look at the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and today is a very special day because this episode of Cryptic Corner is taking place and being recorded on December 16th. So right now in 1967, there were still rescue crews working long hours, pulling people and bodies from the Ohio River, where the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. I think that's how you pronounce that. Oh, well, thank you, John. You're such a sweetheart. And the bridge was called the Silver Bridge colloquially. It was named the Point Pleasant Bridge, but they called it the Silver Bridge because it was painted with this aluminum color that made it sparkle in the sunlight. Well, it collapsed. 46 dead. It's still the biggest bridge accident in U.S. history, as far as I'm aware. I think there may have been one in Minnesota that was fairly bad, but this one is also famous for being the last time Mothman was sighted in the original 1966 through 67 reportings from the Point Pleasant area, from the TNT area. So it's an anniversary episode. Often when I think about Mothman and the end to Mothman's reign, often ends in my brain with Christmas presents floating down a icy river. Just visualize that. Sometimes visualizing headlights shining up from the depths of the river while Christmas presents float over. It's a pretty gruesome thing to imagine, because it was people. A lot of the traffic, I guess, that was on the bridge at the time was people holiday shopping. What day of the week was that? I didn't even check that. December 15th, 1967. Calendar. It was a Friday. So yeah, you think about it, like Friday night, people get off work. They're doing, it's the last Friday. If you look at it, with Friday being the 15th, that would have put Christmas. That would have been like the same as this. Yeah, their calendar would have matched up with ours this year. So we have like the same layout. We're running out of shopping days. Like, this would have been the same as if it happened yesterday. So yeah, okay. So I mean, now that we've got that out of the way, we kind of understand what we're dealing with Mothman. I had a hard time picking out which video to use to cover Mothman, because Mothman is like my favorite. Yeah, I've got my Mothman t-shirt right now. See? I love Mothman. I made my Mothman slideshow. So somebody bring in Mothman videos to me. They better be swinging hard. Let's see. So this is what I found. And let me grab it and pull it up here. No, don't. I want the full screen one. There we go. It was going to pull up the little one. Here we are. So this is from a channel called Fake Anomalous, and it's got 55.5k subscribers. They seem like a decent channel. They're not like woo-woo believer channel or anything. I tried to find one that was taking Mothman, that was believing the hardest in Mothman. Usually I try to find the channel with the most anapodal beliefs to me, but there actually aren't a lot of people out there left that still believe the Mothman myth. So there is some conspiracies and stuff that I wanted to talk about too. So stick with me and we're going to go into it. Oh, let's start from the beginning.
Today, the so-called Mothman, a humanoid monster with red eyes and big bird-like wings, is a fixture of paranormal horror, immortalized in film. But though it has since slid into the realm of fiction, the Mothman was first based on a well-documented wave of sightings in the northeastern United States between November 1966 and December 1967. These sightings coincided with a range of other anomalous phenomena far stranger than anything portrayed in the movie adaptation.
Yeah, so there's a lot of UFO activity and Men in Black activity and stuff like that goes along as well. What's that, John Hudson? 10 days prior to Xmas. That's correct. Mothwoman, Mothman. I want to be Mothwoman. I want to spin my little cocoon up in the corner of my room. I even have the corner picked out. And I'll come out with my butterfly wings, or my moth wings, and fly off to find my Mothman. And then we'll have a little moth family. It'll be adorable. And you're all invited to become moth people, too.
The sheer volume of these reports, as well as their coincidence in time and space, make the Year of the Mothman one of the most fascinating and perplexing case studies in anomalous history. In November 1966, there began a wave of
a lot of times you'll have people lay some groundwork and talk about sightings from like the 17th century and stuff that don't really have anything to do with Mothman or at all. It's kind of sad that this person didn't try to tie in some of the other aspects of the area. There's the curse of Chief Cornstalk. It doesn't get any kind of exposure at all during this documentary, at least not as far as I saw. I watched in about 16 minutes of it before deciding this was the one I was going to go with.
Anomalous activity across the northeastern United States, manifesting primarily in West Virginia and the northern Ohio River Valley.
Ooh, let's see if we can figure out what. So there's lots of UFO sightings between as the Ohio River flows between Pittsburgh and the influx of the Mississippi, and impacts Louisville, Cincinnati, Evansville, and kind of surprised they don't got Memphis lit up on here. It's a weird map. Oh yeah, it is. Memphis is way further down than I was thinking. There it is. I was thinking Memphis was up here for some reason, up by the boot heel. But I wonder if the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins are on this stretch. I wonder about the Loveland frogs being along this stretch, and I wonder about the Flatwood monster being along this stretch. So I know for a fact that the Beast of Busco is not, because he's up here by Fort Wayne. Anyway, let's continue on.
The small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, situated at the confluence of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers, was a particular hotspot, as was the McClintock Wildlife Nature Preserve just a few miles north. The first of the so-called Mothman sightings.
Okay, so let's talk about maps real quick, because I think that this can be clearer. Oh, let's get out of here. You guys get to hear me say "ope" every day, don't you? Every Saturday, I'm open away. So here's the TNT area. This whole stretch right here is Point Pleasant. It's not just this down here. It's from here, from the river, all the way up to here. It's the city. It's within city limits. This is Gallipolis, and then you got Henderson across the way here, little bitty town, itty bitty town. But Point Pleasant, yeah. Then the TNT area is up here. And as you can see, I got a heart on it because me and my little fluffy friend are going to have to visit this place someday. Let me catch up with the chat while I'm muted. Or while I'm paused. Not muted. Hope I'm not muted. I can get down with a cocoon as long as I come out of it prettier. That's my goal. I got to get prettier and prettier in my cocoon. My cocoon's probably actually going to end up being bandages all over my face. But, yeah. The product brings me here. Bree, Fab Personality, keeps me here. Oh, you're so sweet. I've been cocooning for too long. Yeah, but you're freaking beautiful, Mommy. I'll tell you right now. You're a beautiful gal. All I know is that the Mississippi Delta is shining like the national guitar. Oh, okay. Mississippi Delta, down by Louisiana, born on a bayou. What we need here is a map of all the known cryptid dwelling spots. And oh, yeah, actually, you will find that my maps are of cryptid dwelling places. That's my maniacal laugh. So we do have Loveland, Ohio on this stretch. There's the TNT domes. And this is the Flatwood Monster, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, so we do have a map of, yep, of cryptid dwelling spots. There's the Beast of Busco way up here. Tracked down by its longitude and latitude to find that lake. Yeah, that was hard to do, but yep, right here is our Mothman dwelling. And here we can actually drop down and look at this picture of the TNT dome, because I don't know if I think that it's overgrown too much to actually see it. But yeah, this is the area. People always, oh, I don't know how that happened. I dragged that from the comment section of my YouTube video. Anyway, people, oh, here we go. And I can see how driving down through here at night would be spooky AF. And these spots, by the looks of these parking spots, I don't know, this is modern, this is 2023, and this stuff happened in the 1960s. But the nature of these spots for the local teenagers are going to be makeout spots, right? Each of these little parking spots, you drive down here at night. Oh, Joe and Barbara are in there. Gotta drive a little bit further. Oh, there's Ted and Dave making out. Oh, gotta drive down further. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna make out in this spot right here. And then you find out the spot you picked to make out in is right by... Where'd it go? Did I lose it? Where'd the TNT dome go? It was right by the TNT dome. Boom. You're roasted. Mothman flies out. Mothman flies out. And you get scared. But let's go back to the video, because we haven't even got to the Scarberry report yet.
On November 1st, outside the National Guard Armory on the northern edge of Point Pleasant, facing the nature preserve. A National Guardsman was on duty when he saw what he thought was a man in a brown suit perched on a tree limb beyond a high fence. The guard then determined that the figure belonged to an extremely large bird, but when he returned to see it later, the thing was gone. The next night, on a rainy evening, Woodrow Derenberger was driving home along Interstate 77 when a dark, charcoal gray metallic-looking vehicle cut in front of him.
Ooh, hold on, we gotta...
It was shaped like an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney and was floating just above the ground. The vehicle slowed to a stop, forcing Derenberger to brake. Then, a door slid open, and a heavily tanned man emerged and approached...
So this one, I actually want to drop a link, because I actually covered the Indrid Cold case a while ago. This is actually, I meant to label, when I release this as a premiere, when I premiere this, it's going to be labeled as part of this Mothman Mothman Frequency, the Chronicles of Point Pleasant that I'm doing. So I have ideas about the TNT area. Anyway, we'll continue it on. But there's the link to my full response to Indrid Cold. But I'm going to, if I can leap past that and not offend anybody, it's just a salesman speaks with spaceman.
After this, several other witnesses came forward to corroborate both the presence of the flying craft and the grinning man. Derenberger's farm and phone line were quickly flooded with unwanted attention, including threatening calls, and calls with nothing but odd beeps and electronic sounds. Derenberger experienced
And the Mothman Prophecies, the movie The Mothman Prophecies, is somewhat based on this.
further telepathic exchanges, as well as physical meetings with Cold, who later revealed that his first name was Indrid and that he came from another planet. Even Derenberger's psychiatrist reported having telepathic contact with Cold in December 1966.
So Cold is a mysterious figure that came out of a spacecraft, not even in Point Pleasant, so, yeah.
On November 12th, Kenneth Duncan was digging a grave with 4 other men in a cemetery southeast of Point Pleasant when he heard a rustling in the treetops, then saw a brown flying man gliding through the trees for about a minute. Another unusual sighting took place northeast of Point Pleasant on November 14th. After 10:30 p.m., farmer Merle Partridge and his wife were watching their television when it began to emit a loud noise that Merle likened to a high-pitched generator winding up. The couple's German Shepherd began
You know, nobody stole your TV back in those days. It weighed about like 200 pounds.
howling from the porch before the TV's tube exploded and shattered glass on the floor. Grabbing a flashlight and gun, Merle got out to the porch to see the dog run towards the barn. At that point, Merle, his...
So, let me check in here with the chat real quick. Moths have the same kind of long, stringy, proboscis tongues that butterflies, don't they? Yeah, they do. When they eat, some moths don't even have mouths. Butterflies are a group of daytime moths. It's kind of funny because moths evolved at night, it's hard to describe the relationship between the two because they're so interlaced. There's some nighttime butterflies too, and some daytime moths that re-evolved back to live in the daytime, but they all do some form of pollination or something of that nature. They're important animals. People are scared of them. I don't know why. Let's see here. Oh, I've been caught more. Oh, in the parking spots, I bet. Audio is real low on the video. Okay, I can fix that, I think. Yeah. Thank you for letting me know, Dave. Ember, does a mummy count as a cryptid? Because they come from crypts. Yeah, I mean, well, when it comes to cryptids, it usually has to be an animal, though. A person. If it's a person, it's usually not. But, I mean, Mothman is part man. Some of them are closer to man than others. But humanoid entities would usually be called like an ET or an alien instead of a cryptid. Or interdimensional travel or something like that. Yeah.
His wife and at least one of their sons saw 2 silent circling red lights that disappeared after a few minutes. The dog never returned. In an interview decades later, Merle clarified that what he saw was mechanical and electrical in nature, despite an earlier reporter calling them eyes. The first sighting of a cryptid to reach the media occurred on the night of November 15, 1966. Around 11 p.m., 2 young married couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett, were joyriding on back roads through the wildlife preserve.
Sorry, I had a cough there. We saw what those back roads looked like when we looked at the map, right? We saw that when you get down in there, it's pretty heavily wooded. And there's a stop blocking you from going there. I don't know if they could have, maybe they could have went down this way once upon a time, but it's not paved anymore.
After stopping close to the retired power plant, Steve noticed 2 large red eyes lit up by the car's headlights. Into their view came the outline of a creature with the body of a man and large wings like an angel folded around it. It was later estimated to be 6 to 7 feet, or about 2 meters tall. Captured by its hypnotic red eyes, the couples just stood there staring until the creature shuffled away. Then fear kicked in, and Roger started driving home. Upon turning a bend on Route 62, their headlights again lit up the winged creature, which took off straight into the air with just a single beat of its wings. and began to follow the vehicle. Roger quickly approached 100 miles per hour, or 160 kilometers per hour, but the gray figure kept pace until they reached the lights of Point Pleasant. Roger stopped the car when the group spotted a large dog dead on the side of the road. Just then, the creature emerged from nearby, jumped over the car, and staggered away. The group returned with police.
So that's pretty accurate to the report, but some of the language used, I don't know. They talk about it shuffling and stuff. That there's kind of hints to this being a bird or especially an owl. Some people think that it was a sandhill crane, which is a large, tall bird that's endemic to the area but kind of rare. That have a red banding across their face above their beak. However, you would never describe what a sandhill crane does as shuffling. A sandhill crane normally would not have been active at this time of night. So I don't think so. I think it's an owl. I think what they initially saw was an owl sitting on a stump or a dead tree or a fence post. Something that elevated it up and it spread its wings in a threat posture. And I'm getting all ahead of myself.
But the dog's carcass was gone. Shortly after, however, police found the burnt remains of a dog elsewhere in the preserve. The 4 witnesses were separated at the Mason County Sheriff's Department to write depositions, and Roger Scarberry drew a sketch of the creature. Its leg muscles were human-like, though witnesses did not see knees, and they were unsure if the creature had any arms.
Wait, look at this right here. Okay, take note of this, okay? Everything you see on the screen right now. Mothman. Owl. Now remember, it's your dark. Great horned owl's eyes reflect red. And yeah, that's all you need to know. Dark and these eyes reflecting red. Are you with me? Okay, good.
Witnesses could not distinguish fur, feathers, or whatever else covered its body, but it was a dark gray in color. The next day, local newspapers picked up the story, and by 9 p.m., the police received a call about another encounter with the creature from 3 witnesses at a home on the edge of the preserve. The day after that, a reporter with the Huntington Herald-Dispatch called this creature the Mothman, despite witnesses describing
it as a bird because, again, looks like that.
a creature that was more bird-like in appearance. There is no record of any witnesses describing the creature as moth-like. Rather, Birdman was the most frequently used descriptor, with Mothman only rising in popularity years after the events. As the weeks went by, the story of the Birdman spread beyond Point Pleasant, and more witnesses came forward in the surrounding regions. Mary Heyer, the Point Pleasant reporter for the Athens Messenger, began collecting stories. Ufologist Gray Barker, who had previously investigated the Flatwoods Monster of 1952.
Also, the Flatwood Monster of 1952. Let me see here. I got that one as well. Also very owlish. Also very much like an owl. Not an owl even doing a threat pose, just an owl sitting in the tree.
Came to town in late November, and New York journalist and anomalist John Keel arrived in December. The 3 investigators quickly developed a working relationship.
I want to be an anomalist. I'm a cryptozoologist. Can I also be an anomalist? What all do I need to do? Just go to school to be for journalism? And then be... Yeah, and then I can be the enemy of Trump, too, because I'll be the media. I should go to school for journalism.
While descriptions of the Birdman varied, most witnesses said that it was 6 to 7 feet tall, with a 10 to 12 foot wingspan, or 2 meters tall with a 3 to 3.5 meter wingspan.
Which is, again, scared kids seeing this. People are already in a frightened state. Even the baby owls do this threat pose. It's not... I'm just leaving this minimized because I keep pulling up new pictures of owls doing this. Even the babies will do that. They say, stay away from me, I'm big and scary, because they put up their wings. But that's just a little angry, a little not angry, a little scared fluff ball. It's not going to hurt you.
Face was rarely seen but for the eyes. Those who reported seeing red eyes said that they were especially captivating or hypnotic. Some witnesses described the creature leaping straight up from the ground, and though it flew around like a soaring bird, it was very rarely seen to flap its wings.
You notice how little they're mentioning the legs, right? Mothman's legs are kind of left ambiguous. What were they? 'Cause the legs are the only thing here that says this isn't an owl, right? Like, if you chop the legs off of this, if you didn't have this extra 3 feet of legs hanging down, and I don't know that any of the reports describe legs, at least not in any discernible way.
If at all. Most witnesses said that the creature was totally silent, though a few claim that it made a squeaking sound. Many of the later encounters involved the creature pursuing vehicles at high speeds.
Not on
Thomas
foot.
Eerie saw a huge bird.
It's making it like it's running. Look, they're like giving it characteristics that weren't even reported. It didn't pursue vehicles on foot. It flew. It was an owl. Oh my goodness.
Flying alongside his car without ever flapping its wings, while Faye DeWitt Laporte saw a creature running alongside her vehicle. Keel estimated
maybe
that
somebody
over
did see maybe somebody did see it running. My mistake. Whoever saw it running. That's weird. Yeah. Hey, Steph. Good to see ya. Jer's here too, and Ember. We got lots of cool people that have popped in here lately. So, if I missed you and didn't get you on the good morning before the start of the show, good morning now, AR. Yeah, there's quite a few of y'all that I've missed.
100 witnesses cited this type of creature over the winter of 66 and 67.
High strangeness. There we go.
The Birdmen weren't the only strange things seen in the sky. Keel found dozens of UFO witnesses across the Ohio River Valley, and after Mary Hyre and other papers began publishing their stories, the region's news teams received up to 20 reports each day. Keel also discovered multiple UFO witnesses who had sightings earlier in the year, but hadn't bothered to report.
This is the modern day view of Point Pleasant. There's another bridge over here that goes across to Henderson. This is the bridge, I believe, that replaced the Silver Line Bridge. And I don't know what those factories barking up steam over there are.
Them. The witnesses included Hyre herself, who had seen a perfectly round object shining in the sky that summer while driving along the Ohio River. The witnesses to the Birdman sighting on November 16th had seen a large red light flying above them on their drive to the house, and several more saw the same thing from other vantage points.
You know, it's been speculated that this was a military psyop.
Like the Birdmen, UFOs were often seen following cars. For example, on March 5, 1967, Bo Schertzer and a nurse were driving along the Ohio River in a Red Cross bloodmobile when a bright white UFO appeared and kept pace with their truck. The craft even extended 2 arms towards them, seemingly to pincer them, before another vehicle approached on the highway and the UFO flew away.
So, yeah, this is the connection with Mothman and UFOs. Bigfoot has the same kind of reporting, because you get the population in this mind state where everything seems potentially anomalous if you see it fleetingly. So, all of a sudden, you know, men in suits at the grocery store are suspicious, and a balloon in the sky is sus. Just the way that's the way mass hysteria works. Now, My personal pet theory on this was that the TNT area was producing some waves of infrasound. And I was trying to look up some details to see if anybody else had proposed this, and I found this really weird blog post on Above Top Secret, and I want to read it to you guys, and then we'll go back to the video because it's just kind of funny. Whether this should have been posted in Skunkworks forum was a question. I don't know what that means, but since it deals with a crypto legend, I'll drop it here. I've been mulling over the Mothman this past week or so. There have been articles and researchers attributing the creature to a misunderstood barn owl. I think the word would be misidentified barn owl, but I'll let it slide. This is just a blog post. Dismissing the Silver Bridge collapse is nothing more than a coincidence. Yeah, certainly. Certainly seems like a coincidence. It's far from the TNT area in general, and yeah. Others have pointed to the possibility that the entire Mothman experience was a psyop involving a laboratory-modified creature released to gauge the reaction of the residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, along with a few other secret select locations and control groups. I have no problem with these theories, but there is another possibility that seems to not have been discussed in depth. Mothman, Project Brown Owl. The military government has been shown to have few boundaries when it comes from testing various novel concepts to weaponize. MK Ultra is a prime example, but back in the 1960s and 70s, technology was developing at a breakneck pace as various militaries around the globe raced to utilize the most efficient way to gain an edge on the battlefield. An interesting concept would have been to weaponize infrasound, sound below the low-end threshold of human hearing, typically below 20 hertz, which has been shown to have an effect on human perception ranging from discomfort and awe to hallucinations and panic attacks. Yeah, but there's no record of anything called Project Brown Owl, which, yeah, no. He goes in here and says infrasound has resulted in a large amount of interest within the creation of NLW. It is apparent that given the technical depth that infrasound can be applied to within weaponry, a very in-depth analysis of each device would be required. Project Brown Owl, a military psyop meant to test the effects of infrasound on a small population, would have utilized large barn owls, the largest specimens they could find. The combination of the psychological effect of the infrasound and the sightings of the extra large owls would combine to cause a widespread panic and awe among the residents of the town involved in the operation. They released them around towns like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, while operating the subwoofer cable of producing high decibel infrasound. Where would these base blasting machines have been housed or hidden? The ideal spot happens to be near or within the place Mothman was, by some rumored to have lived. Yeah, talking about the TNT area, which we just looked at. Infrasound perhaps was not unlike a Tesla's awesome. Okay, I'm done with this. This guy's a nut, and this stuff is nutty. But yeah, he goes on and on about it. But it made me think, do I sound nutty when I suggest that maybe there was some infrasound from the... So, let Bree be clear. I'm not above saying the government was testing weapons on the population of West Virginia. That they were testing infrasound weapons. I don't think that they were doing it with owls, though. I think owl involvement was probably just a byproduct of that being what the first person, a group of people that was affected by this, the teenagers in the TNT area, experienced. But again, I'm not above saying the military did this. They don't need to, though. If there's something in the design, in the layout of the TNT area, or the Silver Bridge itself, for that matter, that could cause an infrasound reaction to make people hallucinate, that's definitely a possibility. But we will go on. Well, let's see here. All right, back to the video. Sorry about the detour.
One case, a woman saw a 7-foot or 2-meter tall red-eyed gray man-like figure fly over her car, and for the following 2 weeks, her eyes were swollen with conjunctivitis. A number of witnesses had multiple experiences. During the summer of '67, months after their first encounter, Merle Partridge claims that he and his family were relaxing around their swimming pool when the entire sky blacked out and an enormous mechanical UFO appeared with many portholes and rivets. The Partridge family also received phone calls with odd beeping sounds and
the Partridge family, not to be confused with the Brady Bunch, they often are.
Experienced poltergeist activity in the house. The Lilly family had many sightings of silent-colored UFOs over their home that coincided with interference on the TV. Later, they heard cabinet doors slam in the night and other unexplained.
So, I mean, I am going to have to revisit a lot of this stuff when I talk about contactees here. I've talked about contactees before. I've talked about alien implants. How long ago was that we did the alien implants episode? Let me look back. Let me have a look back. Alien implants. Oh, November 11th, 2022. So it was just about, it was just a little, like a year and a month ago. Let me drop that link too. Man, I'm doing a lot of callbacks. A lot of callbacks on this episode. So if you want to see me talk about alien implants after the show, you can go here. All right, let's go on.
Sounds. Mary Heyer, John Keel, and other witnesses received calls clogged with crazy beeps and buzzes, or odd voices that one person described as metallic. There were also several cases of horses,
It was just R2 asking for directions to the Dagobah system.
dogs, and cows disappearing or being discovered dead in unusual circumstances. Keel personally examined carcasses with no trace of blood and what looked to be surgical-like incisions in their throats.
So, cattle mutilation, another topic I've covered. Good grief. What a throwback episode this one is. Let's see, cattle. Yep, and that was November 18th. So these episodes were like back to back. So, oop, that's playing music. There we go. All right, let me drop this one for you guys too. These are topics I'll probably have to revisit, but there we go. Let's do that one there. All right.
Mothman researcher Jeff Wamsley spoke to a Point Pleasant resident by the name of Lawrence Gray, who claimed that in August, months before the first sightings in November, he saw a dark winged creature in his bedroom that he believed to be the devil. As they stared at each other, Gray tried to speak but couldn't, but when he turned his thoughts to biblical scripture, the creature gradually evaporated.
So that's called sleep paralysis. And yeah, if saying like the Lord's Prayer or something is a good way for you to feel comfort during an episode of sleep paralysis, more power to you. I have experienced sleep paralysis myself. It's terrifying. So there's other things you can do as well to convince yourself that it's a dream. A lot of the times what I do if I see a figure when I'm in sleep paralysis is I'll try to mutate it with my mind, like change its shape, because you can do that. Well, what I do to it is a thing called that I call it my brain donating it. I'll make it get a hole in it that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that distracts it from me. That's what I did with my sleep paralysis demon.
Many witnesses also had unusual interactions with men with tanned skin and Asian or Native American-looking facial features. Some locals reported people with long hair and dark East Asian faces crossing their property late at night.
Were they just like enthusiasts? It seems like they're probably like young Mothman enthusiasts. Like people, the woo culture tends to flock to things like this. They become really important to them. I almost forgot. I meant to change my lighting for the Mothman segment. There we go. Now I got red eyes. There we go. Is that better now? It looks like I'm in Mothman's eyes. We'll switch it off when I get to the next segment.
The men were seen wearing bright reflective clothes, while the women wore ankle-length dresses, all before the hippie movement of the late 1960s. Other witnesses saw men...
I don't think that 67 is before the hippie movement. I don't think so. Let me see. Hippie movement. Let's get a date for it. This says 67, so this might have been early aspects of the hippie movement. 67. Even some people citing as early as 63, but that's in California. Not to say people wouldn't travel from California to see the Mothman, man. Have that experience.
Men that were dressed out of place, often in black suits, and that frequently arrived in dark, older model cars in pristine...
When I think of the 1950s, I think all the men were walking around like this. Whenever I see old photos of like downtown regions where people have businesses and stuff, the business district, I always think of guys dressed exactly like this walking around. So I don't know why they're acting like it was out of place. They had put sunglasses on here, and obviously you got like the Blues Brothers, but...
condition. Mothman witness Marcella Bennett was nearly driven off the road by a man in a red car wearing a bushy wig. Heyer had a similar encounter with 3 men in a black Cadillac. Connie Carpenter, the witness who developed conjunctivitis, was later almost pulled into a 49 Buick by a man in black.
Ooh. 49 Buick. That's a beautiful car. Look at that. Boom. What are those? Hespericals. It's insectoid. That's why I like it. It's a bug. A bug car. Back when we used to design our cars to actually look like insects. Why can't we get back to this?
Carpenter's home was also...
Instead, we get stupid stuff like the Cybertruck, which looks like it was designed by the same people who tried to make the cardboard stuff to use your Nintendo Switch with. Like, that's what the Cybertruck looks like.
Also visited by a strange man, and for 2 weeks after, objects turned up in odd places, and pictures fell from the walls. Police were alerted to 3 very tall and heavily tanned men knocking on doors around Point Pleasant late at night, supposedly selling magazine subscriptions. Others said that they were census takers. Others just asked for a glass of water, which Keel noted was an old fairy trick reported in the Middle Ages.
Ooh, asking for a glass of water is an old fairy trick. It's also what the bug asked for when it landed in Men in Black. So, yeah, sugar water specifically.
A woman posing as Keel's secretary also interviewed people whom Keel had previously spoken with. Heyer said that 2 nearly identical men in black overcoats visited her office in December 67 and asked her what she would do if someone ordered her to stop writing about flying saucers. Later...
Yeah, so Savage Minnow asks, so is Mothman related to Chupacabra? The demonic blood draining and stuff sounds similar. Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's the same type of hysteria. Check my Discord. Okay, Sumami, let me see here. Oh my, yeah. Let's get that its own image. I'm gonna share this. Oh, let's maybe zoom. Oh, that's too big. Hold on. Let me share it this way. Yeah, here we go. And we'll get a quick detour to Guess and Chuckles. Here we go. Got the banana, Mr. Banana Man. He seems really happy about it. Love it. All right, there's back to our owl.
Later that same day, another similar man came in to ask the same question, claiming to be a UFO researcher. The following day, Linda Scarberry and her family were visited by a man who was interested in Keel's relationship to Heyer, and who asked her the same unusual question. two men in black posing as salesmen questioned people in Woodrow Derenberger's town about his roadside encounter. Derenberger also had several visits from similar men. His house was ransacked, and his writings and letters disappeared.
This is all mostly based on what Keel reported. So, I mean, and Keel let people self-report on their interactions with supernatural entities. That's the way his reporting went, kind of like Deborah Hatswell is today.
Keel also experienced mail that went undelivered, or had obviously been opened, and plenty of strange phone calls and sounds suggesting that his line was tapped. As sightings of bird-like men and UFOs declined in 1967, Keel received phone calls from contacts who claimed to be other beings, or to channel some non-human intelligence. Many of these contacts offered predictions for the near future, some of which were accurate, in whole or in part. Contacts warned of impending disaster on the Ohio River, implying that a factory would explode.
Yeah, implying that a factory would explode, but is that what happens?
But the most impactful precognition came from Hire, who related to Keel a nightmare she'd had of people drowning in the river, with Christmas presents floating around them.
Yeah, this right here.
Other locals also told Keel and Hire of their feelings of unease. On December 15th, 1967, one of the traffic lights was out next to the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Canaga, Ohio. The 700-foot suspension bridge was packed with vehicles, and around 5 p.m., a corroded eye-bar failed, causing the bridge to collapse in a catastrophic event that took 46 lives and injured 9 others. Some of the deceased were witnesses to UFOs. Mentions of UFOs and birdmen.
Well, I mean, that's just statistics, though, that while you have this mass hysteria going on in the town, that you're going to have some of the, any sample you take of a group of people from the town and the surrounding area is going to include some of those people. So, I mean, that's interesting, though.
Immediately dropped from the media in the wake of the disaster, but sightings continued. Years later, reports of birdmen...
That's today's paper. Look, Saturday, December 16th, 1967, and not 2023, though.
UFOs and men in black seen around the bridge that night began to emerge again, but these are hard to verify. However, Keel reports that the Lilly family spotted 12 birdmen flying south from the wildlife preserve towards Point Pleasant on the day of the bridge's collapse. Additionally, Mary Hire informed Keel that a woman who lived by the bridge witnessed 2 men dressed in black pants and checkered coats climbing it 2 days prior to the collapse. In hindsight,
That's kind of weird. Why are men climbing on the bridge? That is weird. I don't know if people are just trying to get in the newspaper or whatnot. I don't know, but...
many viewed the Birdman sightings and other strange phenomena as negative omens, preceding the bridge's collapse.
Well, it sounded like the bridge's collapse was pretty self-explanatory, though. The traffic light went out, forcing the bridge to carry a load that it hadn't carried before, or at least hadn't carried in a long, long time, and it buckled under the strain.
In 1970, Gray Barker published a creative account of events in the Silver Bridge, and 5 years later, John Keel published his own account in the Mothman Prophecies. Since then, there have been several more books and documentaries on the topic.
Yeah.
The iconic, if misnamed, cryptid is now a well-known archetype of paranormal fiction, made popular by the loose adaptation of Keel's work to film in 2002's The Mothman Prophecies.
I like Laura Linney.
Before this film, the anomalous events weren't publicly acknowledged in the Point Pleasant area. There were no visible signs, monuments, or tourist shops, for example, though the town has since embraced the Mothman legacy.
Most small towns are doing that. If they have a monster legacy to carry, they are leaning into it because the interstate doesn't go through small towns. So people don't pass through them anymore and they die. Like what they talk about in the movie Cars, in the cartoon animated movie Cars, is a real thing that happens to these small towns. I know because I grew up in one. I watched the main street die. I watched it going from having 30 shops to having I think it has 6 shops now, and the rest of it's all abandoned storefronts that are brick buildings decaying like what you see here. But these buildings are better maintained because they got tourism bucks coming through. coming through the town.
The first annual Mothman Festival took place in 2002, and 3 years later, Mothman researcher and author Jeff Wamsley opened the Point Pleasant Mothman Museum.
My son got to go to Point Pleasant, Ohio, and took picture taking with the statue, but he didn't get to go to the museum because it was closed when he was there.
Few have attempted to debunk the events of 1966 and 7. Soon after the first sightings, a West Virginia University professor speculated that the locals were seeing a large sandhill crane, though witnesses found this suggestion insulting.
I don't think it was a
Debunker Joe
crane.
Nickel believes that the birdmen were simply owls and other large birds, and
I'm with Joe.
later, pranksters. But the Mothman sightings at Point Pleasant are far from the only reports of unusually large flying creatures in the area. Since at least the 18th century, North American natives such as the Aline and Dakota have recorded encounters with the thunderbird, a flying creature large enough to carry away large animals. There are also several reports of flying
So, the thunderbird in Native American mythology was the origins of where thunder came from. It's when it flapped its wings that it made thunder crash. And its piercing eyes were the lightning. It was a personification of nature.
from the 19th and early 20th centuries. For example, history professor James Gay Jones of Glenville State College claims to have collected information of sightings dating back to the early 1900s of a large bird covered in dark reddish feathers with the head of a man and a wingspan exceeding 12 feet, or 3.6 meters. These sightings...
Where did he get those measurements from? If he's talking about folklore and sighting earlier than... Okay. We'll have to look into that some other time, this folklore,
persisted
guys.
into the 1940s, in the same counties that the Mothman appeared. Wamsley has documented birdmen sightings in every decade since the 1960s. As recently as 2017, the Chicago region experienced a wave of reports of winged birds, bats, and owls surpassing 6 feet tall, which occasionally sported bright red eyes. In one instance, a bright green UFO flew by just 5 minutes after the sighting. Whatever people saw in the late 60s seems to have been part of a much older and more enduring phenomenon.
So, from where I stand, I'm pretty convinced on the owl theory and maybe some infrasound stuff going on naturally. I wouldn't be opposed to some unnatural infrasound being involved as well. The bridge was unrelated to any of it, any of the sightings, in my opinion, though.
The so-called Mothman sightings of 1966 and 7 were part of a centuries-old tradition of seeing large birds and other flying creatures in the northeastern United States. But they also coincided with a range of other anomalous phenomena, including UFO sightings, poltergeist activity, animal mutilations, and encounters with men in black. We may never know why such an abundance of activity manifested in the Point Pleasant area in the late 1960s, but clearly, they were all related
I also don't think this guy's sleep paralysis had anything to do with Mothman either. I think it's weird that they include
a
that.
level beyond mere geography.
Alright, and that was Think Anomalous, Science and the Unexplained. I don't know how sciencey they were, really, though. I guess I try to leave it open-ended. I'm out here to crack the case, and they're just trying to leave it open and ambiguous. So, that was our Mothman special for December 15th, remembrance of the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode. And if you like what we're doing here, hit that like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notification when we're doing this live, because you could come and watch this live with me and these lovely people over here in the side chat. Just join us 9:30 live from the Hive every Saturday morning. That's Central Standard Time, and we'll be here. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time.